Listen up. Alcohol's causing trouble in your life. You need to quit drinking. I think you're probably an alcoholic. Would you stop drinking so much? You need to lay off the sauce. You're just one of those guys who can't handle your liquor. You know what happens to you when you drink? All hell breaks loose and everything gets crazy. Are these similar thoughts that people are telling you? This is what I heard years ago, but I didn't pay attention. I thought I just liked to drink. Although problems were happening in my life, in my marriage, my family, my business, everywhere, I ignored it because I was saying, well, alcohol can't be causing those problems. It makes me feel good. It helps me deal with those problems. So how could it be bad? This seems to be working. You guys don't know what you're talking about. At best, I'm a functioning alcoholic, but I'm not even an alcoholic. Everything's fine. Everything is okay. Even though you're seeing problems, even though I'm going to court, getting DUIs, severing relationships I've had for years, alcohol couldn't be the problem. I mean, I drink it and I feel better. How could that be so bad? Well, today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about the aftermath of alcoholism. We're going to talk about how to know if you're actually an alcoholic and what to do about it. We're going to talk to you about what happens to the family afterward, what happens in our lives, what happens in our job, and what alcohol is actually doing to you. Because it's something that you might not notice. It's something even bigger than you probably think. You might think, well, I'm not like that guy over there who can't hold a job. I'm doing okay. I'm not like that guy over there who yells and throws things. I'm okay. But all the while, you know deep down that alcohol is nagging at you. And you probably know deep down you're an alcoholic. But you're afraid to admit it because, after all, alcohol does seem to work. It seems to be the only thing that works. So it's terrifying to have to let go. And it's terrifying because once I let go, now I got to face all these problems that I've been ignoring that alcohol caused, but I got to face them sober. And I understand where you're at. So today what we're going to do is we're going to talk about alcohol causing problems in your life and what to do about it, how to understand what's actually going on. So Terry, how you doing today?
I am doing well, and alcohol no longer causes problems in my life. And that's because I have a program for sobriety and I work it every day. And that's what's helped me. For many people that are drinking alcohol, there have been problems. There have been consequences. A lot of people have severe consequences, and some have really, really severe consequences. And then again, a lot of people that are alcoholics or are recovered alcoholics or whatever, they may not have had those huge consequences in their life. And they may not, and when they're still drinking or when you're still drinking, you may not even realize that alcohol is causing consequences. There's many different types of consequences. There's the physical consequences, the legal consequences, relationships, and the mental. And it can affect every part of our lives. And that's a big challenge, especially when you're still drinking. These consequences, we tend to, at least I did. I didn't blame it on the alcohol. I didn't realize it was the alcohol. I just thought it was everything else in life, that I was having bad luck and things like that. And you know, it's as I said, it's a difficult thing to work through and to get through, especially if you are trying to get sober, or maybe somebody else, like a judge, is telling you to get sober, things like that. It's a difficult challenge to take care of. And that's what we're going to get into a little bit more today. And for me, I had some pretty severe consequences from drinking. I lost a relationship, I lost a job, and I had some injuries. And, one of the reasons I picked this topic today is a friend of mine was in an accident over right before the weekend. And I mean, I don't know if this is true or not, but they say alcohol may have been involved, and it may have been him that had the alcohol. I don't know. I don't know the facts of the situation, but he's in a very, very severe, dire strait right now, and it's sad. It's scary, and that's the thing. That's the thing that alcohol can do is like with the drinking and driving, or many other things that can happen in our lives. It can just be one mistake, and that's all it may take. The friend of mine is not an alcoholic. It's just caused, it may have been the cause of a problem, of an accident. So I don't know. It's a difficult thing to deal with. But for us alcoholics, one of the biggest challenges in sobriety as we're getting sober, and it tends to be a real big trigger for relapse, is dealing with these consequences. Many of us, we get sober, and one of the reasons we get sober is all these consequences that keep happening, and we finally wake up and realize that, hey, maybe I should stop drinking, or as I just said, the judge may have said, you need to stop drinking. and and so we start on that journey of sobriety. And the problem is a lot of these consequences, they're still there. We have to deal with them. And how do we deal with them in sobriety and at the same time not let them be a trigger to make us drink again? It's difficult to deal with. But the first thing to do is, obviously, and we've said it many times, is to stop drinking. And that's by far the number one thing that you can do, is stop drinking. And then the next thing after that is we have to take care of these situations. They tell you, I know when I got sober, I didn't want to do anything. I was tired. I was still sick. I was way overweight. I had no motivation. I didn't want to do anything, but I had to deal with some of these consequences that had occurred, and I had to take care of them. And that's one of the things that we have to start to focus on. And I know, Marcus, you had some consequences when you were drinking. They weren't legal or anything, but there was definitely the relationship consequences, right? I mean,
Yeah, I had, I wasn't able to be present for my kids as much as I would have liked to. I mean, I had the benefit because I worked from home, so I was there all the time, but was I actually present? No, sometimes I was, passed out on the couch or whatever. And a lot of stuff was just neglected. I neglected my personal health. I neglected my business. I mean, I tried to do my business, but you can't really do it while being an active alcoholic. Family relationships, all kinds of stuff got severed. And luckily, a lot of it came back in sobriety, but it didn't come back till years after I was sober.
Yeah.
I had to learn to live a new way. And for me, it was, I mean, the most important thing that I was about to lose, and did lose briefly in my alcoholism, was my sanity, right?
Yeah.
The ability to think clear. And it's funny because I look at that now, and it's like there's a glimpse of my former self and my former way of thinking that's always in the back of my mind. And that's why I don't drink today, because I know that that's there, and I know that if I activate it, it might just be enough to be the point of no return again. It might be enough to where I don't believe that I can get out of it. And it's a very interesting thing. There's actually a book I talk about on this channel all the time, the Zen and the Art of Motorcycle Maintenance book. Mm-hmm. And it's a fantastic book, and it talks a lot about this. And I won't do any spoilers, but if you read it with the character Phaedrus, or Phaedrus, it's like some old character that was from some psychology book, I think it was Freud or something like that. And or it might have been philosophy, something like that. But if you read it with the Phaedrus character as your former thought self, the way that you thought when you drank, I think it's a really eye-opening book in understanding, oh, wait a minute. Yeah, that's what it's like being sober. It's like that, and that can awaken at any minute, and it's there, but it's not forefront, right? And when I drink, it brings that forefront. And then everything changes. And it's like, now I realize, now I think that, oh, these things are happening to me, and I need to respond the way that I used to respond, or I need to deal with it the way I used to deal with it. And you start to go down that slope, which really the slide's only about that big, right? You're like, there you go, it's right there. And going down that slope, you realize that your thoughts can be changed. And that's what this is about. Like people that are battling alcohol and you see problems in your life, it is because a chemical has hijacked your mind. That's what it is. Like you could say whatever it's a moral depravity, no, it is chemicals changing your mind. Just like if you were a scholar and a PhD with letters after your name that looked like a damn dictionary, and you were an upstanding guy and everyone thought you were great, and I took away your ability to eat for a month, one, you probably wouldn't survive. Two, after about a week, I wouldn't even recognize you. Your PhDs wouldn't matter. Nothing would matter because you would be a different person because you would be acting based on the chemical need for food. And it would change the way your brain works. And when we understand this, it's very powerful because, yes, we have caused issues in the past. Yes, things happen, like with Terry's friend. If alcohol was involved in that, and someone gets behind the wheel and drives with alcohol, their brain has changed. So if your brain changes so much at the given point that you can't drive a car, what makes you think you're going to have a functioning, working brain as an alcoholic? Who, for me, it was very seldom that alcohol was not in my system. Like the amount of time it took to taper off, I might have slept long enough for it to like get to half mass, but it was always in my system. So I was always affected. And not only that, but I was always affected by the thought process. There was never enough time to get the thought process changed. I would go 3 weeks and say, you think I have an alcohol problem? I went 3 weeks. Alcoholics don't go 3 weeks. Well, yeah, some of them do.
Yeah.
Some of them go 9 years.
Yeah.
Am I still an alcoholic? Well, I don't drink, but do I have an alcoholic mind that can be awoken at 1 second with the chemical? Yes. Why? Because the chemical takes all defenses away. Just like you go into a room and you feel anxious and you drink and you loosen up and feel good. It's taking that little voice away, which, for some instances is good. I think it's probably more healthy to learn how to take that voice away organically, but, many people turn to alcohol. And we look at that and it's like, well, if it changes your thought that much with just 2 drinks at a party or a gathering, then what do you think it's doing long term over and over and over again? And for some reason we neglect this. Maybe it's because the alcohol companies don't want to admit that alcohol does this. Because then, profits, we live in the United States of profits, not the United States of let's take care of people. And I think it's very difficult to look at because there is something in alcohol that does this and changes us. And you can't fight, whoa, willpower, I'm just not strong enough. No, it just is what it is. You go give, the most upstanding, you give the Dalai Lama or Buddha alcohol, right? All of a sudden they're going to be like, wait, I don't feel zen anymore. I don't feel like the way I used to. And over time, if they drank as much as Terry and I drank, or as much as many of you guys drank, that will change them to where you don't recognize them. And I remember I was talking to someone the other night, and they were like, well, I don't think I could ever let myself get homeless because X, Y, and Z. And I'm like, well, you don't really know. Because if you're hijacked by alcohol and that's all you care about, I've seen many homeless people. I used to preach in Santa Monica when I used to be a Bible preacher person. And we saw lots of homeless people. And I had a lot of time to spend and interact with them because we would preach. And then, some would buy some food and get them cleaned up or whatever. But they always went back because it was the way that alcohol had changed their mind. It was the way that they thought about things, and it was the way that their life had become about, if I don't have this alcohol, then I can't function. And that's where I was. I never thought I would get there. I never thought I would do the things that I did to get alcohol, but I did because my brain had been hijacked.
Yeah. And I was talking to somebody who's not an alcoholic, but he's retired and was in the medical industry. And And he mentioned, well, if you need a couple of drinks to feel better, don't you think that's a problem? And I was going to argue with him from the alcoholic standpoint, but I was like, yeah, you're right. It does. Yeah, that's a good point.
Hmm.
Just from a person who's not an alcoholic, I don't know. He probably has a beer here and there, whatever. But yeah, that was interesting. You were talking about the relationships and how it affected your relationships, and that's one of the biggest challenges. And we've had people in our comments that mention, "No, I'm good alone. I'm fine. I don't need anybody in my life." And we really do. We are a social species, and we do need some relationships in our life. And whether they're close relationships or not, we do have to interact with people throughout the day. And repairing some of these damaged relationships, it can be a challenge because we want to repair. Once we get sober, we want to apologize for everything we did. And we go to apologize, and, a lot of these people that we may have hurt, they're like, yeah, right. You're saying, I'm sober now. This time it's for sure. It's for good. I'm not going to start drinking again. And they've got the old, yeah, right. You said that 500 times already, and it's a challenge. And all we can really do in those relationship challenges that we have is just continue to move forward, stay sober, be a good person, try to reach out. If they want nothing to do with us, then that's it's on them. But all we can do is just what we can do. We don't have control over how they're going to react to us or respond to us, and and we can just try to be a good person. Some of
Yeah.
the other challenges we have, there are things we can do. A lot of recovered or recovering or whatever people that have stopped drinking, alcoholics, they have legal problems, they have financial problems. And how do you deal with that? You just got sober, you don't know what to do, you have all this time on your hand. That's one good thing is you have more time because you're not drinking anymore. I know when I got sober, I was like, wow, I have all this time in my life. What am I going to do? And you could start to take care of these things that you need to deal with rather than waiting until the last second to go to court or wait till the last second to deal with this debt that you have or whatever it is. Trying to be a little bit more proactive, doing some research on it. You don't have to do everything at once. In fact, you shouldn't do everything at once. It's going to overwhelm you, it's going to stress you out. But take care of those things as best as you can as you start to get caught up a little bit as far as what you need to do. Something like finances takes a lot more than just, getting caught up here in a few weeks. But you start to be able to develop a game plan. And that's the same thing with getting sober is having a game plan on what am I going to do today for my sobriety or the finances. What am I going to do to work towards my debt that I incurred? Well, I'm not working now. Okay, maybe I should go get a job. And then maybe then you have these thoughts in your head that are like, I'm not going to take that menial job. I'm more qualified than that. But maybe that's all you can get. So a lot of people that just got sober, they take an easier job than they're qualified for, just because it's it's easier. There's less stress. They can just get that paycheck and start to work on some of their financial issues or the legal issues, starting to talk to whoever you need to talk to with those situations or and the relationship issues. Like I said, not going and saying, I'm sober now, I'm a great person, just being a good person and moving forward. And these are the types of things that we can try to do when we're moving forward in sobriety. And if you're still drinking, the first thing you need to do is you need to stop drinking and understand that a lot of these problems, whether you think they are or not, they're probably caused by the alcohol. I know mine were. I didn't think any of my problems were caused by alcohol, but gee, I stopped drinking, and so many of these problems started to go away. A lot of them went away right away. And the other ones that I had to deal with, they were still there, but they got better immediately when I stopped drinking. And that's the important thing. Obviously, when you're going to stop drinking, you do need to go to a doctor so that you can do it safely. I did it in an unsafe manner and I paid for it with some pretty big medical issues. So definitely see a doctor. But yeah, so I wanted to address one of the comments here, and that was Nomad. Congratulations on 3 days sober. That's really awesome. It looks like you had a 5-day bender before that. And I don't know if you're saying you got a 12 pack under the bed right now or what. You're going to throw, I guess so. You're going to throw it out by week's end and you're paranoid a little bit. I would be too. Um, I did that a lot. I'm just going to tell you my experience. I hung on to some alcohol when I was trying to quit drinking, and it never worked. This is me, but I always went to it eventually. The I couldn't willpower it away. I had to get rid of it, and that was just one of the little things that I had to do is take it completely out of my life, at least in the beginning. And that's that was that was how I was able to be finally successful, having the alcohol in my house and available, even though the store is just down the street, but at least having it in the house was just that was my mind hanging on to that little piece of the life that I wanted to stop. And there was a part of me that wanted to stop, and there's a part of me that wanted to keep going in my drinking. And having that alcohol in the house, I eventually drank until, I finally had to get rid of all of it. And I'm just letting you know my experience, and just think about that a little bit there. But congratulations, everybody else that's on here in your sobriety. And if you're trying, keep on trying, man. You can do this. It can work, definitely. But
Absolutely.
yeah, go ahead if you got something.
Yeah, there's a KH says, good morning. After years of struggling, excuse me, with stomach issues and using alcohol to mask the pain, I realized that alcohol was the root of all my stomach pain. Feel so blessed to be 2 months sober. That's a lot like how I was, only it was mental. I thought that all of my issues were issues. I didn't realize that 90% of my issues were caused by being an alcoholic and the alcoholic mindset that came with it. And once I realized that, I was like, wait a minute. Now that I'm sober, I don't have half as many issues as I thought I did. Right? Like I thought I was going crazy, which I was, because alcohol makes you insane. I thought all these things were happening, and really they weren't. It was all what was going on in my mind. And what we think about life and what we don't think is more or less made up by the circumstance we're currently in. Right now, your thoughts, if you're drinking, are made up of thinking that way. And it makes us think in a delusional way, a very selfish way, a very survival mode way. And when we realize that once we get out of it, our head's kind of clear, much like the person's stomach got better, because yeah, alcohol is not the greatest thing to be putting in your stomach, especially like with me. I had it on an empty stomach because I hardly ever ate. But when you understand these things, it makes it so much better.
Yeah.
And you can see things clearly.
This is one of the things that getting talking with other people that have had struggles or are struggling with alcohol, like we're doing right now, and in the comments and stuff. This is one of the things that's really great about recovery is we can relate to each other. I totally relate to your stomach issue, and for me it was the same thing. When I was drinking, I would have my stomach would hurt, and I'd drink more, and it would feel better. I mean, you'd think that alcohol's going to make it worse, but it would feel better. So that would just be another little tiny little thing that would make me want to drink and have more drinks. And oh yeah, my stomach hurts. I know if I take a couple shots, I'm going to feel better. And boom, there I was better. But eventually I did realize, and when I got sober, my stomach issues, I didn't have them anymore, except if I, the spicy food at night thing, but it's stuff like that happens. But the alcohol was the cause of it. Alcohol affects every cell in our body, and sometimes it can mask it. That's, as Marcus was just kind of alluding to it. It makes our brain, makes us feel good, makes us think that, all right, life's great. I'm able to function better at this party with a couple of drinks. No, not at all. If I go to a party now, which I don't go to a lot of parties anymore, especially if it's, drinking type party. But But if I go to a party, I'm much wittier nowadays, especially as the night goes on and everybody else has had some drinks, and I'm a lot funnier, wittier. I can I stay awake. I don't get tired. I could drive home safely. All that stuff. Everything's much better being sober. Definitely. But yeah, see what Dave has to say. Good to see you, Dave and Marilyn. All the other regulars that are here. If I missed you, sorry. But Dave says, absolutely. I blamed everything else for my problems except the alcohol. I rationalized my drinking that it wasn't bad. I knew if I admitted it was the alcohol, I'd have to deal with it. Yeah, I hear you, man. That's exactly the way I was. I, I didn't want to blame the alcohol, and because I knew I'd have to quit. It's the same thing with the hiding of the alcohol for me. I had to hide it, at least the quantities. I didn't have to hide every drink I was taking because I hadn't admitted to everybody that I had to stop drinking. But if I knew that if they knew the amount that I was drinking, my loved ones would make me stop, and I didn't want to stop. So yeah, very similar in that situation, definitely. And Nomad, I don't know if you're back yet, but right on, man. Taking your 12 pack to the trash room right now. That's awesome. And I didn't say hi to Marilyn. Oh, I think I did. Didn't I just do that? I don't know. But anyways, it's good to see you. Yeah.
All right, guys, cool deal. Check out talksober.com. Click the big yellow button if you want to support the channel, get our audios, MP3s, and all kinds of stuff. I think we're still offering a one-on-one call with Terry. I'll try to be there if I can. My schedule's pretty hectic right now, but I will try to be there. So you get a welcome call. You get all kinds of cool stuff. We are still doing that, yeah.
Yeah, and if any of you that had signed up that I reached out to already still want the call, yeah, let me know. I have already reached out to you, so you got the email to respond on. So definitely reach back out. I'm happy to
Cool.
do that. So right on. Thank you, everybody. I really appreciate it. Check out our Facebook group too. Got lots of people on there and talking about sobriety and some of the tools that we use.
Yep, and you can get all that over at talksober.com. And Andrea, glad the videos are helping.